Hello and welcome. This is Brian, also known as Boru, and we are going to go for an adventure. This is going to be a meandering road trip, not even really sure where we're going. Well, no, wait, I take that back. I know where we're going. It's not the happiest place on earth because I do believe that Disneyland has laid claim to that title, but it is a happy place. In a land of jackalopes and chupacabras. Just follow along and we will get there eventually. And when you have arrived, what you do there is completely up to you. You want to pet a unicorn? Well, you could do that. Would you like to maybe lasso up a thunderbird and fly over the canyons? That can also be arranged. Or you could just stay in your room if that's the way you like to do things. So, I do know where we're going. The thing that I don't know is how we're going to get there. It's not going to be a straight line, I can assure you of that. To me, that's the best way to do a road trip anyway. They have maybe a destination in mind, but to be open to stopping at a small cafe or a roadside attraction. I love roadside attractions. I love going to these things. Yeah. How about a 35-foot steel dragon that breathes fire? Or maybe see the world's largest stormy chromer cap in the world. First, you'd probably have to figure out what a stormy chromer cap is. I didn't know before I went, but I researched it and then I saw the largest one in the world because it was there. And one of the coolest places I've been to that was not my intended destination, but I found it on the way, especially if you like to have a can of spray paint in your hand, is to go to the Stonehengiest assortment of Cadillacs, probably anywhere. Don't get me wrong, I do eventually want to get to the place that was my original destination, but why not enjoy the trip out there? Spend a little bit of time getting to know the places between here and there, and oftentimes you'll find some really, really cool things and interesting people. I remember going to a place in Mississippi. It wasn't a place that I had intended to go to, and honestly, it was an afterthought even to go through that corner of the state. But we ended up going to this cafe, or actually, it was a diner, and it was an amazing experience. And the people were just fabulous. These are fabulous people. I love to meet them. So sometimes it's those kinds of things, those happy accidents, maybe things that you weren't particularly planning on that end up being very memorable events and really ones that you can't replace. So I highly recommend traveling without a full itinerary. I've been asked, well, how do you do that? How do you go and just find a place? And I guess my answer to that is usually I'll listen to my stomach or my traveling companion's stomach when we feel like we need to eat. We'll stop at a place, and a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just ask. I'll ask, a waitress or somebody that we meet at the gas station, hey, what are some cool things to see around here? It is a great way to find out these underground, undiscovered little places that you probably wouldn't stumble on otherwise. And I hear some of you saying right now, like, hey, Brian, stop, hold on. What does this have to do with art? And the honest answer is, I don't really know. But sometimes that's how I do my art. I guess let's put it that way. I don't always have a great plan. I just kind of see what's going to happen. This is a good example right now. I didn't have any plans to make a drawing with a cool little octopus and its tentacles going all over the place. It looks like it is, I don't know if it's attacking or helping a little diver guy. I really don't know. But what I do know is that this art, or this piece of art that I'm doing today, has a certain method to the madness. It's really designed out of a series of blocks, or kind of discrete little square modules. Some of them are next to each other and some of them aren't. And this is part of our method of getting to our destination. So that kind of explains some of the odd shapes of some of these things, that it seems to be almost geometric in ways, although I'm trying to make things look as organic as possible when I need to. So I do kind of know what we're doing, but not specifically what we're doing. So I have the destination in mind, but we might we might visit a few roadside attractions on the way. I will say that having certain restrictions, like having a small area to draw in, these are really tiny little areas to draw in. Sometimes that frees you up to do things without feeling like you have to do this big, massive masterpiece kind of thing. It's just something that you can put together and not stress out about it so much. Years ago, when I had really given up art for a while, or not, I shouldn't say given up, but I had other things that I was focusing on. I was focusing more on writing music and some other things. I wasn't doing much drawing or painting. And when I was trying to get back into it, it all seemed very daunting to me. But the one thing that I did that was a favor to myself was I got a very small notebook, a very small little sketchbook. And that made it so much easier because no matter what was going to happen, on a little 3x5 piece of paper, you're not going to make anything that is super, super amazing. It's just for fun. And so, I suggest that for people who at times feel like, they feel a stress to make something that, you're going to be putting up in a gallery or something. And, honestly, most of us, we're just not going to be able to do that, or that's not really in the cards today. Sometimes what you need to do is just enjoy yourself, put some art down in your sketchbook, and just be happy with it. So sometimes working small can really help us with that. You can't focus on fine details when you're working really tiny. So you're just looking at the overall look and feel of something. And at least I find that can be really helpful to get you out of maybe a little bit of a rut or any type of apprehension you might have in doing some art for the day. Do you have any strategies for getting over that hump? When you're feeling like, man, I don't know if I can do anything today. It all seems too much. Maybe you have something that works for you. I would love to know what it is. Because occasionally it happens to me too. It just seems like a lot. If you do, let me know in the comments. I'd love to read some of those. And at some point I think I'm going to make a video just based on that sort of thing, just kind of getting unstuck and just being able to do something. Maybe other people can relate to this, but sometimes when I have too much stuff on my plate, like I have 1,000 things I'm supposed to do, it's hard for me to do even one, because it's hard to prioritize. I found that for me, sometimes, like I said, having something that's restricting me a little bit helps. If I say, well, I'm going to do this piece of art, but I'm only going to use, a blue marker or whatever it is, or a very small piece, or I'm limiting this to 5 minutes, or you're taking a lot of the choices away from yourself, and sometimes then you get into this problem solving mode that I think can be more effective to actually doing something. Here I'm doing an eye. I really liked how this one turned out. One of my very first artistic successes, I guess I'll call it, was an eye. And I kind of got known as the guy who could draw eyes well in my high school. In fact, I'll probably bring out one of my old paintings from that era. But at any rate, I think I really got a lot of enjoyment out of doing eyes over the years, and I think that they can be kind of an effective part of doing particularly portraits, but I tend to do a lot of eyes just by themselves. I don't know, they're just fascinating little mechanisms that open up the world to us, and they have a really cool shape, a lot of interesting little pieces to them. I highly recommend studying how the eye is made for any artist that is trying to draw people particularly, and animals too. I think a lot of the personality comes through right there with the eyes. Oh, and I'm seeing here that I'm kind of doing a little bit of a graffiti thing here, and I want to thank someone had suggested I look up some of the graffiti styles from Philadelphia, and this doesn't really show it exactly, but I researched that and I had some visions and ideas in my head, and that was great. I really appreciated that tip. A lot of times this is how I learn stuff. I just look for information, or I'll ask for information. A lot of times people just offer it up. I love that. And so that is an example of something that I didn't know about, but I started researching it, and then it got in my mind, and it made it here on this, I guess, piece of art, or this art project that I'm doing right here. And I guess, again, that's kind of showing how this thing is coming together. It's pretty much maybe stream of consciousness sort of thing, but in an art sense, just kind of seeing what happens. I'm looking at the spaces that I have to fill, and I'm thinking about, well, what would fit in this little space here? And for instance, this was a tall one, and I happened to be eating some penne pasta, which is not spaghetti, but it just got me thinking about it. And I thought, oh, yeah, I could just have this long string of spaghetti, and that just kind of ended up filling up that space. So, for whatever reason, that's just what came to my head, and so I drew it. Didn't think about it twice. I guess I did kind of a similar thing too, with little blobs that I would draw on my paper or have somebody else draw on my paper. And then I would create some sort of creature out of it, or some sort of drawing out of it. A lot of times they'd end up being faces like the ones I'm drawing here. I think that those were I think it was in one of the sketchbook tours. Yeah, I think it was the first sketchbook tour for 2023. That really helped me too. I was doing a lot of that last summer, just giving myself a certain space to work in and just trying to fill it in and make it interesting. Sometimes it worked, and then, of course, sometimes it didn't. I think on this project there are maybe 300 or so little squares that needed to be filled in. And some of them are attached, so they, it's not 300 distinct drawings, but 300 little squares. And I guess if I would have thought of it that way, that would have been a lot more daunting, but I didn't. I just started drawing and saw what came out, and most of it was pretty fun. I did get stumped or got stuck a couple times, and I had to maybe flip through some books and some magazines for some ideas, and I did find some stuff that ended up helping me out in some of these areas. Drawing some slime here, or S slime, I guess is how I wrote it. I don't know how that made any sense to my head, but that's just what I drew. Somebody else gave me an idea. I saw in one of her sketchbooks that she had done a mermaid challenge, and that kind of got into my head. And so I said, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll draw a mermaid. I'll tell you what, it's hard to draw these things small. There's a lot of details I would have liked to have gotten to, but hopefully just got the idea across anyway, and was able to sort of fill out the space right next to the octopus, it looks like. So had kind of that aquatic theme in that quadrant. Oh yeah, I'm looking at this here, this little ghost. This is a little thing that just popped in my head because in my house, I think that there is a mouse or something that has probably died in one of the walls because it smells horrible in a certain area, and I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And so you can see I'm drawing a little mouse there, and he has a little hole that goes on his way to some cheese, which you might see later on. But anyway, I drew this little ghost, it's maybe a little mouse ghost, and coming out of a little wardrobe. I don't know. Again, some of these stories just appear, and I'm fine with that. I like stories, even if I have to make them up for myself. And here's another eye. I love doing eyes. I think I did three at least major eye pieces on this overall project, and this one's kind of similar to the other one. Well, we've been rolling around for a while on our little road trip all over the place. Let's see, we've seen an octopus and a mermaid, a couple big eyes in the sky. Here it looks like we have a little koi pond, and some electronics. Electronics, that came about as I was listening to a really interesting podcast, which is also a great thing to listen to as you're doing a road trip. This podcast is called Radio Lab, and they had just a fascinating piece on a part of our solar system I didn't know existed. And if you look it up, the title of the program of that episode is Zoozve, Zoozve, and it is really fascinating and funny, and the underdog wins. It's just really a cool thing. Anyway, it got me thinking about radios and that radio lab and electronics and that sort of thing. And up in the upper left-hand corner, I don't think you can quite see it here, was like a satellite dish kind of thing, which could have been used as a telescope. That was my thought there as I was drawing it. So this is kind of how things go. It's just, like I said, stream of consciousness, little things that pop into my head, and they end up on the paper. And overall, I think the things worked, not 100%, but enough that it fulfills the objective of filling in the 300-some squares on our journey to the happy place. And as I said, Once you're here, what you do is really up to you. And if you get to the end of this and you figured everything out, but you still have some questions, and I wouldn't be surprised if you did, check out some of the information that is in the community tab on my main page there. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to email me or ask a question in the comments. This is not a life or death thing, it's just for fun. And hopefully I'll have some people join me along the way. A couple already have, and to them I thank you very, very much. It's always fun traveling with companions, people of like mind, or not even of like mind, just willing travelers that are looking for something kind of fun to do. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a great week. Please like, subscribe, comment to your heart's content, and you will forever be in my thoughts. Or at least we'll have a great photo montage at the end of our trip. So thanks a lot. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.